So there was this deal with EA being bought by, the Saudis, and, everyone was kind of like, oh, damn, that kind of sucks. And insiders were like, well, they're going to owe a ton of money to JP Morgan. And so they're really going to have to get aggressive with monetization, cutting costs, and doing whatever the hell they can to save some buckaroonies because they sold themselves for a hell of a lot of money. Now they have government overreach to kind of watch out for in equal capacity, because it seems like US senators are a little concerned that the proposed transaction poses a significant foreign influence and national security risk. So this is an interesting one. I didn't think that the American government were actually going to care, because we do live in a not monopolistic society, though companies do want to be monopolies in their own way, but rather in a capitalist society where whoever has more money technically has more power. And so these Saudi guys have way too much money than they know what to do with. So they're kind of using their our own, basically like the business system against businesses and governments. So the $55 billion buyout of EA by a consortium that includes Saudi Arabia's PIF, or Public Investment Fund, Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners investment firm, which has resulted in no small amount of consternation among observers. And that's pretty damn obvious. I feel like everyone would be damn worried about this sort of thing. But moving away from that, in a letter to the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Senator Richard Blumenthal and Elizabeth Warren expressed profound concern about the foreign influence and national security risks that could result from the takeover. Now, it's probably worth keeping in mind that there actually has been some foreign influence in some of the things that Saudi Arabia has bought in the gaming space. For example, City of Wolves, the Fatal Fury game was absolutely dog water, and they couldn't do anything that kind of mocks or insults the Saudis, similar to like how all the comedians went over there to do a big comedy show, but they couldn't do anything about, mocking the crown, mocking the government, mocking the religion of, the Saudis and everything else in between. So they just couldn't badmouth the Saudis, basically. And so I feel like, if the Saudis were ever like a villain in a Battlefield game, for example, I feel like that would be an absolute no-no, for example. So I feel like there is some level of that sort of influence that is going to be seeping into the products that are being made by companies owned by them, including like, the golf organization that they created themselves and ended up buying up a bunch of golfers with like a massive bag, and like I said, the comedy show, and the developers that they've also purchased as well. Like, again, though I don't think a lot of video games touch, Saudis in any real way when I really think about it. I feel like the closest we get is Spec Ops: The Line, because that takes place in Dubai. But yeah, so, just kind of, I guess, going along the quotes here by the, the letter that was addressed to the U.S. Treasury Secretary. The proposed transaction poses a significant foreign influence and national security risk, beginning with the PIF's reputation as a strategic arm of the Saudi government. The letter states, all but explicitly pointing the finger at the long-standing allegations of sports washing being conducted by Saudi Arabia via millions of dollars invested in sports, video games, and other cultural institutions. Damn, this is actually a pretty long article now that I kind of look at it. But the main things that I wanted to kind of cover was partly to do with the fact that the cultural influence aspect of it, but also namely the fact that like Saudis do kind of control the actual content that is being made. And it really does kind of make me wonder, well, if they did anything that would badmouth the government, it would likely be other governments that are outside of the Saudi base. But also partly to do with the fact that people in the government are kind of concerned about the fact that the Saudi deal is kind of a bit sus in multiple different ways. And I feel like EA was at least in the past few years, they did make decisions that felt like they were kind of slimming themselves down to be bought, similarly to that of Ubisoft. But Ubisoft didn't end up getting purchased at all, and in fact made a basically just created a new company through budding, effectively, creating Tubisoft in some ways. And then I saw this GameSpot article talking more into the foreign influence aspect. Jesus Christ, that is my tongue is just, absolutely falling apart. And then I realized, they talk in some other interesting aspects, specifically this bit here where it says Saudi Arabia's PIF has spent a lot of money to invest in multiple video game companies, including Nintendo. Worth keeping that in mind. The country also struck a 12-year pact with the IOC to bring the Olympic esports to Saudi Arabia for multiple events. Saudi Arabia has been accused for numerous human rights violations, as well as 2018 assassination of Jamal Khashoggi, which obviously a man's been in bags before, let's put it that way, hacked and slashed up. Investing in video game companies and other diversifying holdings has been interpreted as a way of the country to whitewash its image on the international stage, so people look at them from a significantly more positive standpoint. And so it does kind of make me wonder, ultimately, at the end of the day, we know that EA is, in fact, gathering data from us regarding, how we play, what games we play, what games we buy, whatever have you, through the EA app and everything else in between. That's also not to say that that information isn't also going to Saudi Arabia in some way, shape, or form as well. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, is the Saudis going to be able to make use of the information that is being gathered from us as the players that are playing the games that are being made by EA and other companies in between? Is it the fact that, the Saudis are going to have a tight leash on certain aspects that cannot be talked about, mentioned, or, basically tackled in any way, shape, or form through the games that are being developed? Or the fact that other countries like the US, are starting to get a little bit worried by the fact that, hey, an American company was just bought by like another nation altogether. The hell do we do? Basically, I feel like this is a very, very interesting situation that these last three aspects are basically huge on. But I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year. And with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.